Hello, everybody. Welcome to my shop. Um, Tonight, I'm going to do a demo on making a slimline pen, but I'm not going to just start at the lathe. I'm starting from the beginning, taking you all the way to the end, including the CA finish. The beginning portion of it, I don't have a lot of room to move cameras around my shop, so I had to move equipment out, set up cameras. So I did the cutting, the drilling, and the gluing on a pre-recorded video that I'm going to run first, and then we're going to move over to my lathe, and we're going to start the sanding and turning process. So let me get down to share. Got that.
Well, here we are at my bandsaw, and we're going to
How's
start
that?
the process of preparing
Perfect.
this blank to turn into a pen. I've got a piece of wood here I got out of my box of pen blanks. It's a pretty wood. Couldn't tell you what it is right offhand. Maybe walnut, maybe some sort of mahogany. I am not sure. Now, for this, I am going to use a sled. And this is my sled. It's from Penn State, and I do admit it's overkill in a big way. But this is what I use, especially when I'm doing my production turning and I have to cut a lot of blanks. It just keeps everything consistent. You do not have to use a sled. You can cut this freehand. And before we head over to the next part of preparing a blank, I will also cut a blank freehand and show you how I do that. So since I've got the sled, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off just this end right here just to make sure it is square. So let's start her up. Okay, sorry about all the noise. So I'm going to check it real quick with my framing square, and it is square. So what I want to do now, I've got my tubes, and I want to set this so that the tube is 1/16 of an inch from the outside edge of the tooth of my blade. And I have a big resaw blade in here, so I don't have to worry about any kind of drift or anything like that. So I'm going to loosen this up, the stop block. I'm going to get this up into place. And it's a little hard to see, and you're probably not going to see it too well there, but I am 1/16 of an inch away. Now, the trick is tightening this up without loosening it. That's my one complaint about this sled. So, we're there. Double check it. Yep, it loosened. So I'll just bring it over just a little bit. Tighten her down again. Okay, just a hair more. Right there. That's it. So that is perfect. So now we don't have to measure or mark any lines on this at all. The sled is going to take care of everything for us. So let's go ahead and get the two halves cut for the slimline. And there you go. They are cut. And what I'm going to do on this is to get my Sharpie, and because I'm doing grain matching on everything that I do, I make a mark to make sure that the two sides stay together while I'm doing the turning. That of course will be turned away, but it gives me a point of reference to start with. And I know that all my ends are square because I checked it off in the first place, and I know that this bandsaw is tuned up, so I'm perfectly square between the blade and here. So anyways, that's how I do it with a sled. Now if you don't have a sled, you can make one. Very simple flat piece of 1/2 inch plywood with a miter bar. in there that you can make also out of plywood, or you can freehand it. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to grab another blank and I'm going to show you how I freehand it. Okay, I've got another blank here, and we're going to measure this and cut it freehand. Now this is a little bit more of a process. So I know this is a perfectly square end. I've already checked that out. So I'm going to make that my top to start with, and I'm going to place the blank, or the tube I mean, sorry. I'm going to place it right at the very end, and then I'm going to mark with a pencil. I'm just going to eyeball 1/16 of an inch from the tube. Then I'm going to take my square and draw a line. So there's my center point, and that's a very important point for me, as I'll explain as we go along in the process. So, and that buzzer was my dryer going off, so just ignore that. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to come down with a tube, and I'm going to put it basically right on the line, and I'm going to mark 1/16 of an inch off, and then I'm going to draw a line right there. So now I have my two halves of my pen laid out, and just like with the other one I showed you, this is my center point to make sure I'm grain matched.
Looked like it
Let
shrunk.
me get this stuff out of
Jeff,
the way.
it dropped your video down small. Okay.
There
Well,
we
here
go.
we are at my bandsaw, and we're going to start the
Okay.
process of preparing
I
the
don't know what the heck happened. Let me take it back to this point.
Yeah.
of an
Okay.
inch off,
There we go. Perfect.
and then I'm going to draw a line right there. So now I have my two halves of my pen laid out, and just like with the other one I showed you, this is my center point to make sure I'm grain matched. So let me get this stuff out of the way. And now we're just going to cut this by hand. I just want to lower this just a little bit. That's unfortunately going to obstruct the camera, so I'll bring it back up. So here's the goal. The goal is to make this just as straight as you possibly can, which means go slow. And it's definitely the point to make this just as straight as you possibly can, so you definitely want to go slow there. When I cut the end, excuse me, I'm going to cut on the outside of the line. Let's do that first. And then we're going to go and we're going to cut right straight down the center. So you notice how slow I went, and that was to make sure the line stayed straight. So anyways, let's get our tube. Let's hold it onto here as a reference and see if we got some space. And we do. We got about a 1/16 of an inch between the end of the tube and the blank. And I'm going to come over to this side, and we have got 1/16 of an inch between the end of the blank and the tube. So that's exactly what we want. So now we're ready to go on to the lathe and drill this. Okay, we're at the lathe now, and I've installed my Jacobs chuck with a 7mm drill, brad point drill. That's the size we use for a slimline kit. Now, what I want to do, and I'm hoping, I'm going to see if I can zoom in just a little bit here and get you a better look at this. What I want to do is I want to mark on the drill bit just the point where the point of the drill bit is coming through the end, so that I know to clean it off and go back in and do a very gentle run until it goes all the way through. So I'm going to mark it with my Sharpie basically right like that. I'm 1/8 of an inch off the end of the brad point. And I'm just going to mark it right there like that. And that gives me what I need. Now I'm also using my Hurricane Chuck with pin jaws in it. I know it's there somewhere. There it is, with pin jaws in it. And I'm going to take my first blank. I'm going to slide it in. Now I always drill from the center to the outside on both blanks. So I'm going to get this into here. And when you do this, if you're going to drill this way, make sure your blank is perfectly square. You don't want it to be any type of a rectangle, because what will end up happening is one or two of your jaws will not be gripping. You'll just have two, and that means it can move up and down and have some issues. So we got that set in place and ready to go. We're going to move the tailstock up, and I got the brad point right at the wood, and now we're at the point we're going to drill all the way through. I'm going to be using my compressor to kind of blow stuff out of the way. I am not going to run my dust collector for the sake of this video, because it's just going to make too much noise. So we are going to do our first blank at 500 RPM, which is the speed I always drill at. Here we go. And I'm just drilling in, I want to say about 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to bring it out and just give it a quick blow off. And I'm going to go back in. Now, as you can imagine, when you're doing a production turn and you got like 20 blanks to do, this gets old real fast. And it gets real sore on your arm. There, I'm at about the halfway point, so I'm going to bring it out. And you know when you're about the halfway point, because she starts squealing, because there's a lot of the body of the drill on the wood. So now I'm going to slide the whole tailstock in gently till she stops. And now I'm going to work on taking it the rest of the way. Going up about halfway that distance to the end. I am now up to my Sharpie mark. So I'm going to pull it out, clean it, back it off just a little bit, and then I'm going to gently slide it in until she stops. And then I'm going to gently move the drill in very slowly until she clears. And you can feel it when it clears all the way through. Now I'm doing this because I don't want blowout. Sorry about the compressor. And as you can see, no blowout. Okay, now we're ready to drill the second blank, and it is not seated properly. Let's see what I did wrong here. The first one seated beautifully. Let's take a look at that. That looks better. Guess I wasn't paying attention. So there we go. So now we're going to do the second one just like the first one. I'm just not going to go through all the explanation. Just remember to take it slow and little bits at a time.
1/4 inch from the mark. So I'll bring it out. Whatever this wood is very powdery. And then we're going to take it very slow to get it all the way through. And I feel the tension lightening up. And she's through. Pull it back. Stop it. Take the blank out. And as you can see, no blowout. So both ends are drilled through. Both pieces are ready to go. Now we're going to head back over to my table saw, which is also my bench, and we are going to do the glue up. Okay, I'm here. I've got my epoxy mixed up with just 2 little dabs. This kit is a fun line, not a slim line, and I could tell that because the tubes were not scored. So I went ahead and scored them with a piece of 150 grit sandpaper. And it's just a simple process of doing this. That's all I did. Then I took my Play-Doh and I pushed each tube down in to the Play-Doh to form a plug at the end. And that's going to be your big friend. Let's get rid of this. And the reason I'm starting at this point is because I did about 5 minutes of recording without realizing I didn't hit the record button. So there's my demo-itis for the night. So now I'm going to put a little bit of epoxy on. And it's not going to be a lot because what I want to do is I want to go from not the center end, but the opposite end. And I'm going to work this back and forth and twist it as I'm doing it, working it in. Then I'm going to pull it out, put some more epoxy on it. Now I'm down in the center where I want to be. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back and forth and spin it to get it coated. And you can feel that epoxy is oozing through the whole channel. And then when I get to a certain point, I push it down flush with my stick and drag the stick across like a trowel, and that evens it all up. Now we're going to do the same on the other end. Starting from the outside edge, pushing in. And of course, Play-Doh end first, twisting back and forth, turn it around, put a little bit more epoxy back on. That's probably a little bit more than I need. So we'll have a lot of waste, but that's normal. And back and forth, and as you do this, you can feel the epoxy spreading through that hole. Then push it down, trowel it off, and then you let that set for 24 hours. And I am using BSI Industries, which is Bob Smith Industries, 30-minute epoxy. I don't like 5 minutes. It's too quick for me. 30-minute epoxy, if I'm doing a production turn, will let me do 3 to 4 blanks before I have to mix more up. So this is my epoxy of choice right now until I find something better. And that's it. Everything's glued up. We just let it set overnight now. And then when we're done with that and we come back, we're going to have the camera over at the lathe, and I am going to show you how I square up the ends using sandpaper. So we'll see at that point. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay then. I'm going.
So far, very, very enjoyable. Very enjoyable.
Thank
Keep
you.
going.
Thank you. That's the one part you never see in demos for pens. I don't understand it. And it's more important than the turning. So anyway, so I'm going to get my respirator on because I never turn without it. And then we're going to head over to the lathe. I got a new 2-camera setup that I'm using for the first time tonight. So this could be quite adventuresome. So let me get this on. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Never ever turn without a respirator. It's really your life's blood. So let me switch the cameras over to. That's not it. Overhead. Okay. There's the overhead shot of my lathe. I'm going to walk over to there. And this is my sanding system. I used to have one that I made from a piece of plywood, but when you replace the sandpaper on it, it literally tears the layers off the plywood. So this is actually a Ron Brown's best sanding disc that he has made up that I bought from him. So I also have this base here that I built, and then when I put it into place, I use my square to make sure it's even with it. So I'm getting as straight of an edge as I possibly can. And the thing with this is you want to get this is actually a good example. The part is about an eighth of an inch around your tube. That's where it's got to be square. If it's not so square out here, it's not comfortable. So we're going to get this going. I generally do my sanding at 1250 RPM. And we're not going to have a lot of sanding to do because we cut this blank so tight to the tube. So let's get her going and see. Let me do this real quick. Let me turn on. Okay. Can you hear me okay still?
Yes.
Okay. There we have it. That one is done. So we're going to go to the other side now and do the same thing. And this is going to take a little bit more sanding. That was done. Let's do the other. There we go. That's ready to go. So let's get this out of here now. So now we're going to mount the blanks onto our pen mandrel. And I like to use a right side pen mandrel. I think these are the best out there. You can adjust the length of it. I have it adjusted to pretty much what I always use. And I'm going to go with this part as my top because I have a little bit more grain being displayed. So I'm going to take this off, put that on, put on one bushing, and on another. Bear with me a second. I'm going to switch over to a different dust filter system. Because I was actually having trouble hearing. So there we go. We are ready for our turning. There's a few different ways to do it. When I first learned, I learned using a standard roughing gouge. And I'll do some of the roughing out with this today. Another way, this is my favorite tool. This is the Sorby Micro Spindle Gouge. I use this most of the time. And then some people like to use carbide for everything, and that's perfectly fine. I use the carbide as a final step that I'll be showing you before we do the sanding. I also turn at 3,000. I'll just set my length at that right now. Okay. Let's make sure we, yeah. Okay. I've got this against my, you can't really see it in the camera. I've got the handle against my body. And I'm just like any other turning, I'm going to use my body rocking back and forth. And I'm going to use my finger on the tool rest as a guide to keep the depth the same. What I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to take them down so they're about 1/8 of an inch from the bushing, because I like to make my pens a little bulbous in the center so they're easier on the hand for people who write a lot. Okay. So I've got this 1/8 of an inch. I cut my finger. Don't know how I did that. Got this 1/8 of an inch from the bushings. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working with this to bring it, to shape it so that it's wider here and here than at the ends. So I just want to make sure I got everything set right. Alrighty then. So we're going to take short strokes now and lighten it up as we come towards the center. Feeling the end. A little bit of a ridge still. Okay. Okay, one of the things that I find with this lathe, and I don't know if this is a lot of people had this, but one of the things you have to do is to make sure that the point of your tail or your eye center is perfectly centered with your spindle, and I do that with a 60-degree um, dead center. This is perfectly centered as it should be, but every once in a while, I will still get a little bit of lift on one side where it is just a little bit thicker than the opposite side. And I'm not seeing a lot of that here, but I'm seeing a little bit. Oh, there's some right here. And I know it's probably hard to see in the camera. And the way I solved that is with my carbide and just working on the ends. So I am centered, and I'm just going to touch it. I didn't like how that would shape right there, so I just went ahead and did that also. And I'm just making very light cut. And I got it. So they are now even with the bushings. So now we're ready to move on to the next step, which is the most important step. Now, when we make pens or we make projects, we put a wax on at the end or a lacquer or other finishes. We call them finishes to give them that nice shine or to seal them and to protect them. I've learned that that's not the finish. The finish is actually sanding. If you don't have a really good sanded finish, then when you put your coatings on, all the imperfections are going to stand out. So I'm going to run through the sanding process here with the two most important grits being 120 and 240. I always sand at 500 RPM, so I'm slowing it down to that. And it's not a long process either. This being the most important grit, this is where we're going to get rid of tool marks and other imperfections like that. So let's get it spinning. And I'm keeping the sandpaper moving, and I'm watching for these dark lines to eliminate. That means I'm getting everything level. There's a bad cut down there. And one of the things I find with when I'm sanding is one of your most important tools is going to be air. So always have your compressor handy so you can get in there and blow the dust out. Because when you blow the dust out, it will sometimes expose misses or scratches that were filled up and you didn't get. So I'm looking at this. That's actually looking pretty good. That's a beautiful wood. So let's go down to here. And again, just getting the tool marks out and doing the final shaping. Okay. So the next step of sanding, for every single bit you do, you've done the sanding while it's turning. Now you want to do the sanding with the grain to eliminate any circular scratches that may be there. I just go around once, turn the paper around, start on the other side. And again, a little bit of air to. Now what I'm looking for is any circular scratches that still exist. And a lot of times you'll have them at the ends. And boy, by golly, this is the first for me. I'm not seeing any. That's just amazing. Let's go down here and take a look. Oh, a little bit there. Sometimes what you think is the scratch is actually a bit of grain in the wood, especially when you've got this kind of grain coming in. So, okay, let's see what we got here. A little bit there. A little bit there. And what happens is sometimes you will not see the scratch until you get up into a higher grit. And then you got to go back, which is an aggravation, but that's the fun of making pens. Okay. So I think that's the most sanding I'm going to have to do with one particular grit, and that was the 120. I'm moving on to 240 now. And this isn't going to take as long. Basically that and that. I see a little bit here I want to get. There we go. If you hear the compressor, sorry for that. It's sitting right next to my lathe because I have nowhere else to put it.
Zoom's muffling it.
Okay, let's do an inspection. Not seeing anything there. Anything there. Well, that's looking pretty good. Okay, I guess that's 240. Now we're moving to 320. If any scratches were missed, this is where they're going to show up at. And I don't do a lot at 320. I'm just touching it, basically. Now, beginning with 320, what we're doing is we're shining the wood more than anything else. It's good. 400. I'll stop at 400, but I'm going to go for 600 tonight, just for the heck of it. And that took less time than I normally have, so that's a pretty good sanding job. Now the real fun begins. We're going to put on the CA finish. Let me get my gloves.
Hey Jeff, what is that special device you just laid down? Is that a
What's that?
bed diaper? Is that a bed diaper? That special device you laid down?
That's an old T-shirt. When my T-shirts start getting kind of dull and dingy, they become rags in my shop.
There you go.
I'm getting ready
Always
to
smart
retire
to-
some more for the shop.
It's always smart to put a diaper down on top of your bed when you're getting ready to
Yeah.
put finish on.
The diaper days for my wife and I are over.
Amen.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Diaper
These
days tend to
gloves
come
I've
back.
got are from Harbor Freight. They're 5 mil. I've gotten the 7 mil before, which are nice, but they're real heavy. They're hard to get on and take off. I get 4 or 5 uses out of these unless I glue my fingers or something. So I use these over and over again. So my method for, and I'm looking at this, this is not really an open grain wood. In other words, I can't scratch my finger across grain to get the nail caught in anything. This is a pretty tight grain. So I'm going to be going with all thin CA. If it had a bit
Hey,
of an
Jeff.
open grain to it, I would do the first 2 coats with medium and then switch to thin CA.
Jeff, do you
And
put
what
any
we're
type
going
of
to
staining?
do,
You put any type of standing
was that,
sealer on before? You put any type of standing
no, I never
sealer on?
put standing sealer on a pen.
Okay.
I've run into problems with that before with blotching. So I go right to the CA and let the CA do the sealing. So I do this just like all my sanding. I do this at 500 RPM. Let's just put that there. And I do 5 coats, and I'm using Starbond Thin. Let's go this way. Thin odorless. This is something new they've come out with, and I really like this. It really doesn't put off fumes. So, and while we're at it, give me a second. I want to turn off that air filter now, because I won't need it. And it might make it a little easier for me to hear you guys. There we go.
Can you hear better now?
Yes.
Outstanding.
Okay. So basically, we're just going to drizzle it on. And that's it. This is usually where I glue it on my glove. Then some activator. You don't need to put a lot of activator on. Keep the can back about a foot and just hit it with a mist. I'm just going to look for any kind of bumps or anything, because that sometimes happens. And it hasn't here. So we're going to go for the second coat. And we're just going to drizzle that on. No lumps or bumps there. If you do happen to get lumps or bumps, the only fix for that is to sand it back down to where it was at 600 and start over again. There we go.
Jeff, what material are you using for an applicator?
Oh, this is a paper towel from Kroger's. The ones you can tear off half sheets, and I just cut it into 5 strips. That's all I've ever used. I tried the blue paper towel from Home Depot and Lowe's, and it leaves a blue tint behind on everything I've ever done. So I've gone to this, and this works really well. This has been my applicator of choice for 5-6 years now. I used to use a rag, and I've gotten completely away from using rags, simply because of the dangers of them. So let's do this. Couple drops. We don't need a lot now. That's looking good. And then the final, I only do 5 coats. When I was learning this, all these people were doing 15 coats of medium. I saw one person do 15 coats of thick. And what they ended up with was, it looked like you were looking like at a piece of wood underneath glass. And that's not what I'm going for. I'm going for a shine. So this is what I've ended up doing. All there is to it. And that speed and the speed that I do that at and just getting rid of it, that I learned from Captain Eddie. And I thank him greatly for that, because that solved a lot of problems that I had. So I'm going to let that
How
spin
fast
for a
are-
second while I throw these away.
How fast are you going there?
500 RPM. Sanding and CA, I always do at 500 RPM. Much more than that, you're going to have CA splashing all over you. Don't ask me how I know that. So now we get to the final part before we do the assembly, and that's micro machine. And that's going to smooth this all out. You know, there's a very fine roughness to it, which is normal. So that is going to smooth it all out as I go through all 9 stages. It's not cumbersome or anything. It's fairly quick, and it really makes a big difference. So let's go through that really quick. That is also at 500 RPM. And what I do with these is I blow them out as I go along with air. The first 2 are sort of like your regular sandpaper. This is where you're going to do the most micro meshing. You can see the whiteness coming out. Put that there. So that's looking good. We'll go to the next one. And I don't have the grits for these memorized. I know it starts at like 1200 and goes up to 2200, I think. I'm not certain. I just know it works.
Jeff, I see you're doing yours dry. I've always done mine wet.
I never do wood wet. I've had problems with the water infiltrating from the ends and totally ruining it. So
Okay.
if I do acrylic, I'll do it wet. And I've never had a problem doing it dry. I go about halfway and I just slip the micro mesh over so I'm getting fresh grit.
And I see you don't use non-stick bushings either.
What was that?
I see you're not using non-stick bushings either.
No, no. I use those sometimes on the bigger, thicker pens, because I find when I use those, I have to do some work on the ends of the blades to get the excess off. And that's not necessarily a problem. It's just something that I don't feel like doing.
Okay.
So she's not shiny yet, but she's getting there. I'm up at pad number 4. Pad 5. And these are the 4x6 piece of mesh that I buy. They're like $30 now, so I cut them in half and I have 2 sets. Like everything else, it's getting crazy in price. Okay, for the final 4, Mark Soleil once said in a video that the human eye can't pick up a scratch any greater than 800 grit. And he's right. So what I do is, even though I'm going back and forth with a micro mesh and doing lengthwise, I'm doing that more for cleaning up than anything else. So from this point on, 6 through 9, I am not going to be going with the grain. I'm just going to be doing the circular only. And this part's really fast. And I hope you can start seeing the shine coming through as I'm doing this. 6. 7. 8. Pressing firmly, but not real hard, because you can very quickly ruin micro mesh by putting too much pressure on it and heating it up. Can you see the shine coming out?
Yeah, you can start to see the light bar coming across on it.
Yep. So I'm going to turn off the compressor because I'm really not going to need it now. One more step before we do assembly, and that's buffing. I used to use the Hut plastic polish, which is a great product. If I was in a jam, I would still use it. But I started using the Penn State buffing system, which I think it's just nicer to work with because I don't have the stuff kind of splashing out at me. And the Huts will tend to pick up blackness from the bushings, and I don't have to worry with that. So I'm going to switch over real quick to the buffing system. And this uses a blue jeweler's rouge. So now this I'm going to do at 1250 off 1,250 RPMs also. Simply because the wheels are so small, they're only like 4 inches. So I'm going to get some rouge on. You don't need a lot. I pick a spot that's easy to tell where I'm starting at. That's going to be right there. And I just start gently working it up all the way down, turn up just a little bit, and come back down. Everybody's got their own unique way of doing this. I saw a person who motorized the spinning of the pen. I don't think that's really necessary, but hopefully now you can really see the shine popping. This makes all the difference in the world.
That's an interesting way to polish them
Yeah,
on the mandrel.
this is how I've always done it. And this is just kind of cleans off any excess dust. There you have it. Their turn. Beautiful. Now we're moving on to the assembly. And I've never done assembly here on my lathe. So it ought to be interesting. Get that there. Okay. So let's move this just a little bit. There we go. Okay, we don't need that. This is the Penn State Assembly and Disassembly. Disassembly, I'm not crazy about, but it works great as a assembly. Now, one thing we talked about last week, and that was you can tell when you have a real slimline kit because the tubes are already scuffed for you by Penn State. A lot of companies buy Penn State's Funline kits, and then they market them as slim lines. And what happens is when you go to assemble it, when you put the nib down into the hole that's on this, it leaves a dimple, which you don't want. So what I do then is, this is the Funline kit that we're doing tonight. So I put it up on the end here. Get rid of these. So I don't dimple it. So we're going to go through that process now. Get the parts out. I'm just taking the blanks off the mandrel. So this is the bottom one. We're going to put the nib in first. So I'm just going to hold it into place. Bring this down just a little bit. And so the nib is not going into the hole. It's on this. And press it in. And there it is. Now the next thing we're going to do, and I just realized something. Bear with me for a second. This kit was missing a refill, which I need next. Probably because I used it on another kit that it was bad. The mechanism for making the refill go in and out is called the transmission. And these are got a lot of heavy grease on them and they're real stiff. So I like to work them back and forth till they get a little warm and they're easier to work with. Okay, then I stop in the closed position. I'm going to bring this out a little bit more.
Hey, Jeff, this is Sue. How come you didn't use the hole in that silicone piece of the press? You said you went onto the side rather than put the nib in the hole.
Right, because when you go into the hole, this is a Funline kit. It's not a Slimline, so it's a thinner metal. And when you press it in with it in the hole, you're going to get a dimple all the way around there.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. And you can't explain that off of the design. So, and that makes this part a little tricky because the hole is not capturing it. So what we want to do is we want to get this, it's going to be roughly right even with that line when we're done. But sometimes blanks are off by 1/16 of an inch. And so I take it so far and then I use the refill to determine where the stopping point is. So I'm going to go up to there. Put the refill in. We're not there yet. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's not coming out. So we're going to go back. We're a little better,
Almost.
almost there. So I think I'm going to be safe to go to the line. That's the nice thing with the fun line, the slim line test is they give you some leeway. There we go. Okay, that's right where I want it. So I'm going to set that there. Now we're going to put the top on.
Jeff, what do you do when you press it in too far?
Then I have to use disassembly punches. I have to start out with a very thin one that I run in through here, and I put it at an angle so it catches the collar on this one, and I tap it with a hammer to knock it out. And that can be a job sometimes. And then I start over again. Well, I take that back. I knock this out, then I get one that fits just inside of the tube, and I knock the transmission out, and then we start all
Got it.
over again. So,
Always throw them away.
well, that's another thing too. If you got a blank that chips on you and goes bad, I just turn it off, clean up the
Right.
tube, and I'm ready to go again. So now we're going to put the top on. This is a satin finish on this one. And I'm just going to kind of pick a spot. And since this is the only real dark area here, I'm going to put it right there. This is something too that if you've got a little mark or something right there, you can put that over it and it'll hide it. So let's get this on, get this in place. Line it all up and press. Okay, now I want to match up my drain. Before I do that, let's put the band on first. So there's my dark area. There we go. I think that's going to be it. Push it on. By golly, I got it. There you go. A finished slimline pen.
Yeah, look at that.
Nice.
So let me go over here to the computer and then I'll take any questions that you have.
Dane was asking about the disassembly. Dane, I've
Yeah.
got a whole set of punches that I got from PSI that goes from the smallest punch you'll ever need to the biggest punch.
Right.
And I
got it.
also have a special wrench that comes with it that's padded so that you can hold the pen without damaging the blank.
Yeah, this is what he's talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have the wrench, but I've got the transfer punches.
So
Yeah.
the
Show,
disassembly,
show that again. Show that again, Jeff. Okay,
Right there.
how does that work? How does that
it's
work?
basically like a crescent wrench. You adjust the size and it holds onto the body.
Bring,
Hold it
bring it
higher.
up higher. Bring it up higher.
Okay. Holds onto the body
Uh-huh.
like that.
Ah,
And then you can run your punch in from the other side and tap it with a hammer.
and,
Right on.
and relieve it and come have it come back
And,
out.
yep, when you're done, you just relieve it like, not crescent wrench, channel locks. They're like
Yep.
a set of channel locks.
Yeah, right.
And this is what he was talking about for the punches, was this.
right. Transfer punches.
And they're all the different sizes and everything. You'll find there's 4, maybe 5 that you'll use all the time. So
Makes a good paperweight.
yeah,
That's what
now
mine
the
are.
disassembly sled portion of the sled, they've got it set up with a piece of surgical rubber tubing that you put the blank into, then you lock it down with the thumb screws, and then you push the punch through with it. The problem I find with that is there's no room for this to float. And more times than not, that just breaks right off. It comes out, but it's broken off. So that's why I went back to using the old style. So,
No,
so
that's really
anybody got
pretty.
any questions about the process or anything?
Not about the process. You very enjoyable. But you know what you glued up, at the beginning, they're
Yeah.
probably dried right now. So why don't you just make another pen?
I can do that if you want. I mean, it's going to take probably another hour.
I mean,
I'm good with it.
all night.
And actually, this is a sold pen already. I sold it yesterday, and I said you just got to let me turn it first. So
Congrats.
cool.
Yeah, I'm only goofing with you. No, I just pay
That's
attention.
okay.
Like, hey, look,
Cool.
it was over half hour ago. You said it's 30-minute, epoxy. That's all I'm saying. I was just goofing around.
Oh, okay. I get it now. I'm
Hey.
slow.
I really enjoyed the article on how you price your pens. It's about the same way I do.
Thank
But
you.
I enjoyed the article. Thank you.
It basically boils down to you got to know your market.
Right.
You're never going to
Right.
recoup your
If anything.
And that's why, I have made so many slimline pens. I've got the whole process. If I don't stop, except for just waiting for the glue to dry, I can take it down to 35 minutes and I've got it done, So that's why I can sell these at $25 a piece. These attract people in who start looking at the $45, $65, and $75 pens.
Right.
See, I
Yeah.
like working with the trim line rather than the slim line. I just
Yeah,
like,
trim line's a little thicker in here, I believe, right?
Yeah. yeah.
Yep.
You
So-
can actually make a trim line with a slim line kit. It's
Yeah.
called a modified slim line. That's the only way I make them.
Well, because the trim lines, I think they're priced more affordable than even the slim lines. You have to buy them in a kit, but
Right.
yeah. But I like the trim lines.
Well, one thing you can do too is if you got a slim line, you can make it into a trim line by using a piece of wood in here that's turned to size, or a piece of corian that blends in well with it.
Oh,
You
that's
could do
cool.
it that way. The trick is you're going to want the bushings for the trim line because the center bushing is a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I have. So yeah.
Yeah.
But very
You can even
good demo.
Thank
you
you.
can even mill your own hardware using brass and aluminum, and you can
Yeah.
turn it on. You can turn it on the lathe.
I've seen people doing that. Yeah.
Calipers are your friends.
Yep. Right. And I have a lot of kits from my early days that were failures. And so I just kept all the parts from the kit that was left over. And I have a whole slew of things to choose from if something goes bad.
So yeah. Good idea.
So Jeff,
Including I've had customers come up to me in shows and say, my pocket clip broke off. So I said, well, leave it with me. I'll put a new one on for such and such a price. So I've had a few of those repairs.
Oh boy, shrewd guy.
Can I tell you what I do that is very popular?
Sure. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. Number one, it is a great, I have success in selling. I use Purple Heart for the body of the pen
Uh-huh.
for the Wounded Warriors. And
Oh.
I use the Slimline kit, but I buy the Comfort gold ring for the middle because it's a little bit fatter. It doesn't
Yeah.
come down so slim. And then I buy the American flag clips.
Okay.
And people buy them for the Wounded Warriors because that's what they get. They get a Purple Heart Award.
Right.
That's a great idea. I love that idea.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
Where do you get the clip at? I guess Amazon.
No, go to Wood Turnings. Wood
Yes.
Turningsz. He's got the little extra gold and silver rings for the middle for the comfort pen. And he's got all kinds of different clips. But again, I love to put that American flag on there, and people buy that as a gift for their wounded warriors.
Yeah. That's a wonderful idea.
Jeff, why do you, I mean, I know it's just your preference, but why do you choose to use the CA glue instead of the Parfex, or have you tried the Parfex?
I tried the Parfex a couple years ago, and I've not done much with it since then. I still have some, as a matter of fact, and I may start experimenting with that because one of the things I'm finding when I'm doing outdoor art fairs, there's no way to keep the sun off your bowls and vases and stuff. There's just no way to do it. And with wax, it damages it. I end up having to rebuff them every single time.
I think she's talking about Parfex.
Yeah, Parfex 3408.
No, we don't use the 34.
Oh, just the regular brand Parfex?
No, we use the 3460. It's got 45 centipoids, so it'll soak into the wood, right? But it won't soak down into the bushings. The 3408 is so thin, sometimes it'll go in less than a thousandth of a crack, so it can soak down into the bushings, and then it would seize up. I only use 3 coats. Then I do the 400 and 800 and 800 random orbit, and that's it. Then you just buff it with the EEE Ultra Shine, and it's like glass.
Oh, okay.
Another thing.
The only reason I haven't used it is because I've just been using this forever.
Well, that's okay. It's okay. But a
matter
lot
of fact, I
of
met the folks from Parfex. I was over at their offices one time. Very nice people.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are sensitive unless you have the odorless glue. And another thing that I like about it is the fact that most people, you mentioned something that was very, very, very important for every wood turner out there.
Mm-hmm.
You said stay back when you spray your little accelerator. People get up so close and they spray the living devil out of this thing.
Yep.
All you need is just a little and that's it. That was so important.
Yeah.
That everybody should mention, because what happens as soon as you put a little bit of accelerator on, just a touch, that is a chain reaction. The polymerization goes from molecule to molecule. And and here's the problem. If they put too much accelerator on there, most of the people are using just a regular accelerator that's acetone based. So what are they doing? They're dissolving the very super glue they're trying to make. If you use a heptane based accelerator, you never have that problem. And that's why the surgeons use it, because they have to make sure that the integrity of that glue is not going to be compromised in surgery.
Yeah.
So,
and it's even more important to keep your distance if you're using the pump accelerators.
Well, yeah, either way, yeah, but you got to stay back.
Yeah.
And just put a little, just put a little, but it'll all take care of it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I learned that the hard way myself. I had a lot of pens that were coming out looking really ugly when I first started doing CA work. And
but you know, one of the things that brand new turners do, right, is they just automatically assume this and assume that.
Yeah.
You really need to get your methodology down and stay with it.
Yeah. Yep. Well, a lot of them depend on YouTube videos, and there's so much bad information being shown out there.
Yes, there is.
I've seen a lot of guys spraying their accelerator and they're 2 inches from the thing and they're just going up and down it.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it's acetone based, and they wonder why they get a blotchy result.
Yeah.
Because, and if that doesn't gas out completely before you put the next coat on, that gas is going to be under there and it's going to leave you a shiny and a dull spot. And another thing, you mentioned another thing that was extremely important, right? Don't jam and this sandpaper. Keep a little air floating underneath.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that is so important because,
Yeah.
and they will not clean up their sandpaper. They load it up, and then what they're doing is they're starting to get so much heat that they actually melt the acrylic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because super glue is acrylic when it dries.
Yeah. And micro mesh itself will fail very quickly if you heat it up.
Yep.
It's not made for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I burnt my first set of micro mesh up.
Well, I personally, right, this is just me personally, right? You can use the micro mesh, but me personally, I never use it. Once I do my 800 random orbit, it's over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a lot of stuff, and it looks just like glass, but it's okay. I mean, you did a good demonstration, but you brought out some things. The reason I'm reinforcing that is so that people understand that, you've got to do this in an organized manner every single time you do that.
Yeah.
And if you do it the same way every single time, you know something? You have a thing called success.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're putting it together, right? Yes, always test that. Make sure you can always put one more little tiny press and get that ballpoint out there just right. They just gonna slam into it, and then they got to use this deconstruction stuff and all that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did a very good demonstration.
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me, Mark.
And then
I think it's important because the demonstration is the teach. That's what it's all about. So I think it's important to get all those little tips and everything in there.
Now, the only one thing that I do, right, that was a little bit different on these things, after I take the pieces off of the mandrel and go to put them back together, before I assemble, I always put a piece of like 400 grit sandpaper on the ways of my lathe so that it's nice and flat. And I hold that in my fingers and I do a little bit of circular around and around at 90 degrees. That takes any little burrs or anything off before I put the pieces together. So that the wood is always clean. There's not a little burr or something hanging over, so that it always goes really tight to the little metal piece. That's the only thing different.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. Very good idea.
I have a question, Mark.
Yep, go ahead.
What?
I was in a wood turning class over the weekend, and one of the questions was they had 3408, but it got thick on them, and they didn't know if there was anything out there to thin their 3408, or should they just buy new?
If it's already been compromised, right? The reason that super glue, right? I'll just say this. Okay, all super glue doesn't make any difference whether it's 3408 or a regular. People do not put the cap on the super glue when they spray accelerator. If one molecule of accelerator gets down the nozzle, it's a chain reaction. It's going to harden up, right? Number two, right, is if you have any dust, right, or, sanding dust that gets down the nozzle, right, it can start, especially if it's spalted wood, the fungus spores are faster than any accelerator on the planet. So things can get compromised. So always keep your super glue. Just make it a habit of put your cap on your super glue.
Mark, it was Cindy. She said she got this 3408 from you eons ago, and it's been sitting in her shop and it got thick. So she was asking everybody, what do you do if it's gotten thick on you? Evidently she hasn't used it much.
I was going to say, right. Well, I went to one guy's shop and he had it for 3 years, right? And it still worked just fine. But most of the time, it's contamination, or it had extreme temperatures,
All right.
or she left it open for a while and it got moisture in it.
Yeah.
Right? Moisture affects all super glue.
Well, Cindy Rose to say
Water is a catalyst for super glue.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sue, go ahead. Go ahead.
Hey, Jeff, can I ask you a question?
No, Sue needs to finish. Al, Sue needs to finish first, okay?
Go ahead,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought she was. I'm sorry.
Cindy Drozda said she'd get a hold of you because she probably needs another bottle since that one's gotten thick on her.
Well, I hope she ain't going to ask for a refund.
I know it.
Well, I'll tell you what.
She left the bottle cap off and had it cured up on her.
Well, she just said that she grabbed it to look at it. It was really thick. So whatever.
Yep. Right.
Well, I never used the 3408 on pens. I use the 3460 and I eliminate the waking problem. Right. And that's 45 centipoids rather than 5. And you can put the 3408 on there, and then a lot of people will put the 900 because it's 100 centipoids. The last two, they'll use the 3408 to seal it, then they'll use the 900 to do the 2 build-up coats, and that's all you need, So, but anyway, everybody has their own stuff, but I still have that, and I have the heptane-based accelerator. I try to never have a large bottle of the super glue on the lathe near open. I always use the little tiny bottles. I keep the larger bottles sealed, and I always keep the tiny bottle because I have students here. They leave things open, they tip things over, and they spill it. And I don't want to compromise a great big, like 8-ounce bottle of it.
Right. Mark, do those students, when they knock stuff over, do they have a flat spot on the back of their head?
Or should they?
They should. If they don't, they should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Al had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking when you at the very beginning when you used the Play-Doh. So the little bit of the oil, I guess, went into the shaft, and as you were putting the glue in and stuff. Well, no. What I'm really thinking is when you were assembling it, so there was a little bit of like an oil fill inside of the shaft. Is that the reason why you used the Play-Doh when you were assembling it?
No. When I'm gluing the tubes in, I push the tube into the Play-Doh to create a plug because I'm pushing that back and forth, and I don't want the epoxy to go inside my tube. It can be cleaned out. It's a royal pain in the butt, though.
Yes.
Right?
Matter of fact, I have a reaming tool that I use sometimes will take care of any that might slip in. But I've actually taken a rat tail file times to clean it out.
A lot of people.
I didn't understand why you were using it.
Okay.
A lot
that
of
was
people,
explained in the part that I didn't record. So,
yeah, a lot of people just use a potato. They put the
Yep.
brass tube in a potato as a plug. And I'm just saying this. I'm not trying to interfere with your demo or anything. You did a good job, right? There's another thing that I learned, right? And I use all the time now because I used to have to, sometimes when you drill some of the woods, you'll get a little bit of wavering in the wood, so you have space where the tube goes in. I overcame that very simply, right? The only thing I use now is Gorilla Glue, right? When you put the Gorilla Glue in there, you have to wet the tube with a little water. Then you just, twirl it around with the Gorilla Glue. Then I never have to worry about the tube being loose in the hole that I drilled because the Gorilla Glue expands and it comes out both ends. And then you just take it off with your fingernail and you put it on your mandrel. But the Gorilla Glue expands, you have to wait overnight.
yeah. I generally do anyways, whether I'm using CA or epoxy. I give it 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have, when I was drilling my blanks on a drill press, I had a lot of times where there was a lot of slop when I put with a tube. Since I switched over to drilling on the lathe, I've not had any of that. It's been a tight fit.
Absolutely. The only thing I do is drill on the lathe. And another real quick thing, if you ever use acrylics, before I ever drill an acrylic blank, I always put super glue on the exit end. I put super glue on the exit end, and then when the drill goes through, it goes through absolutely clean, and it never chips out when it gets to the end.
That's a good idea.
Because you're then going into just that dab of super glue.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I do when I'm turning acrylics, when I'm drilling them out, I'm using an acrylic drill bit, which is a point. But I use that same process that I use when I'm drilling out wood so that I don't get a blowout on the end. I take it down to just that last eighth of an inch, and I very gently turn the handle on my tailstock and just take it in very slowly.
Yeah, but I've had some of a problem on some of those acrylics will chip out.
Oh, the really cheap ones, yeah. Like the Funline acrylics. Yeah. They not only chip out real easy, they smell like horses' hooves when you turn them. So my son goes nuts when I turn them.
You guys that have problems drilling accurately on your drill press, you guys know a drill press was actually designed to, for finite precision holes to be drilled and stuff. You can actually set your drill press up to drill straight.
Well, it's
just saying.
Here's what happened. This is just my experience. That's all I can speak from, right? Is that when I go on the drill press, I'm, fairly accurate. But I'll tell you what, I just found out that I just put it in the small jaw chuck. It's tight. It doesn't waver, right? At all. And boom, it just goes right through.
And the piece itself is turning.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've had problems drilling on the on the drill press. And so what I've done is I do it on the lathe, and I was using the 4-jaw one-way chucks, and I found that some of my blanks weren't perfectly square because I don't cut my own as a rule. And I bought the Nova jaws, and they have there's only 2 jaws, and they have a rounded over section, so it'll only grab on 2 of the corners, and they work really well.
Yeah.
The one question I had for you though, I noticed you didn't put a center point on your blank. Do you find that to be a problem?
Center point on my blank.
Like
You mean
when
like a
you're
little
gonna
divot?
start drill, yeah. Mhm.
No, no. That was probably the case when I did when I drilled on the drill press. But here on the
Okay,
lathe, everything's lined up anyways. That's
Yeah.
why it's very important
okay,
to have the tail stock and the headstock lined up perfectly.
okay. Hey, oh, thank you.
Uh-huh. One thing I did want to point out, because I mentioned this while I was working on it, and that is, I stopped 1/8 of an inch from the bushings, and I create this kind of thicker area in the center. I've learned when I first started turning pens, they teach you, you want it flush with the bushings across, so it looks like a thin pen that's been around forever.
Yeah,
My
looks like a
customers come
cross.
back and told me they like the thicker. They like the thicker when they write a lot. It's not as much strain on their hand. So that's why I
Right.
make them all like this now. I got 3 or 4 for the people that like thinner ones, because they're out there. But this is the majority of them. So that's why I do it that way.
Yeah, it's a nice
And that was the
profile. It
process
doesn't
of
look like
learning
roller
itself
stick.
too.
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't look like a pregnant pen. It's great.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of people they just fall in love with what the wood or the acrylic looks like, and they're afraid to take that extra wood off, and you get stuck with that obtuse barreled pen or the single barrel. It's just huge. And
Hmm.
Yeah, that's why I use that comfort ring on the slimline kit.
Yeah.
It doesn't go down to the what I call the
Right.
wasp effect.
Yeah. I used to work at a company called Flagstar Bank in their IT department. And I got called up to the executive in charge of retail one day, and I went in his office with all this fine furniture and everything. He's got a plastic pen about this long and about that big around, and he's writing with that. And I go, why are you using a pen like that? He goes, I have arthritis real bad. It's the only pen I can really write with without any pain. And I goes, I'm going to make you a pen. He goes, you make pens? And I go, yeah, I'll make you a pen. So I made him a pen with a nice piece of rosewood that had this little thin red line going down it from 1 year of its life. It got attacked by fungus. And it was just the coolest thing in the world. And I made it into out of a cigar kit, a cigar pen kit. And I made the body where he's holding it extra wide. And I ran into him like 3 years later. He was still using that. He loved that pen.
There you go.
It didn't help when they got rid of everybody.
No, it didn't. I used to bank there, and I was bummed when the bank went away when it got bought. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's a horrible situation now. My wife retired from there a couple years ago because it's gotten so bad, and you're going to be hearing about, and not to get into all kinds of stuff outside, but you'll be hearing about them in the news soon. Bad
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I when I heard about the sale coming, I bailed. So it was like, there's 1,000 banks in this city.
Yeah.
Not
No,
gonna
we bailed too.
not gonna
Yeah, we bailed
yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I used to make these standing pens. They had like an inch wide disc at the bottom, and they were longer, and you'd set them on the table and they'd stand up on this disc. I don't know, I made 30 of them or something at one point. And it was basically a slimline, but the back end where you would have the I don't know, the end cap or whatever.
That there?
It was, yeah, that bit. It was about an inch in diameter, a
Oh,
brass
okay.
disc. And it was one of the things I liked about it, and I don't remember what they called it, but one of the things I liked about it is it gave you a lot more territory to do things like artistically express yourself on the pen. It was a much bigger pen. So it was fun.
That's a cool idea.
Just as a
Yeah.
quick, just as
Cool
a,
idea until you set your arm down on it and forget it was there. I had one of those,
just as
and
a
it made me talk in tongue on several occasions.
No, just as a quick note, even after the stroke and everything that I've had, I still ship the Parfix medical products all over this United States. So I carry the 2-ounce bottles and I carry the 8-ounce bottles. And so, and anything, just people write me or call me and There's no problem. We'll ship it right out.
Do you know if there's a Canadian distributor for that Parfix, Mark?
There isn't.
I'm
'Cause
sure
I-
I'm sure there's somebody over there. I mean, I ship to Michael Hoslick all the time, and so it's
I haven't been able to find one. And when you order from Canada, it costs you more for the border fees than it does to buy the
Right.
Parfix. So
yeah,
that's why I asked.
well, it's crazy because when Trump put up this tariff stuff, I get this Vonex is made in Germany. I import it from England, right? And it cost me 3 times as much for the import tax and tariff than it did for the product.
Yeah.
But it's a good product, So.
I
But anyway.
didn't want to start something, but I just wanted to ask. So.
But anyway, you brought up a lot of good points in your demo. I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and it
That
facilitated
means
a
a
lot
lot
of
to me,
good
Mark.
points from Mark.
Definitely want to say
well.
it was a very enjoyable evening, Jeff. Believe me,
Thank
very
you.
enjoyable. People
See,
say
pen turning can be
just
fun.
pens, but no, you brought it all up.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is this is the first full on nuts to bolts pen turning demo we've had in the last 6 years. We've had some 3-sided pens. We've had some other crazy stuff with pens, but just doing a basic pen start to finish. Great job, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Very
That's
enjoyable.
things that when I was learning drove me crazy on YouTube. Everybody started out
Right.
with a blank already made up, and I was trying to figure out how they did that.
Yeah, good old YouTube. The turners on there, they want to show you part of it, and then it's like, oh, magic. They skip 5 steps and like, oh,
Yeah.
look what I got a masterpiece. You're like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
okay.
then
You
another
didn't
line
go from there to here.
was use your
Yeah.
favorite finish. Well, what the hell? What is that?
Right?
I don't have
Yeah.
a favorite.
Yeah.
Nice job.
You guys want to see a picture of that fat pen I did?
Sure.
Okay. I went and found it. It's an old picture and it's not very good, but there it is. It's one on the top up here.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it just
So it was
screams
designed
hot spots.
It was designed to stand on the flat end on the table straight up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Did you name that one Hotspot?
I don't name my stuff, but anyway, yeah, there's some of my other pen designs just from when I was making
Well,
them.
no,
actually,
when you write and you got those frillies, they make hot spots on your hand. They're not comfortable to write with. They look cool, but they're not
Well, some
comfortable
of
to
them
write
are.
with.
I mean, you got this big flat bit here, which is where everybody holds it by, right? But
Yeah.
everybody likes different stuff. Everybody holds their
Yeah.
pens differently and prefers different things. So, anyway, thanks. I just wanted
Very
to
cool,
share.
Matt. Hey, thanks, Matt.
Are all these slim lines that you're showing, Matt?
No, here, let me go back to it. The
I'm
fat
just
one
saying,
is
you can make a slim line look anyway. I mean, you can.
yeah. All the rest of these are all
anything.
the other 3. The bottom 3 here are all slimline, but this one up top was a different kit. And I don't remember. Like I said, it was years and years ago, and I don't remember what they called it. It was 15 years ago or whatever.
Yes,
I made this.
you can make a slim line look any way you want.
Yep, you can.
Yep.
So there's some other folks in the chat who had some pens to show if we want to show them. So I haven't been really
Yeah,
keeping
sure.
track.
Yeah,
but-
let's go look at ink pens.
Thanks a lot for sharing, man. Thank you.
You're welcome, Al.
Now, believe me, it was very enjoyable.